Welcome to another segment of After Hours on Technically Speaking. In this session, I have a Q&A with executive coach and founder of Emerging Path Coaching, Brooke's Elliot Scott. During the Q&A, we touch a bit on authentic vulnerability, as well as having feedback with your manager, in addition to building better connections with your team. Now, this was actually recorded back in the early days of shelter in place and when everyone was getting ready to work from home. And it's very interesting how a lot of the conversations and the feedback that we have still rings true today.
Yeah. Love it.
All right. So from Katie, now that we're working from home, what recommendations do you have to create separations between the two?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing is to set those expectations with the people that you can at home and the people at work. I like to, one thing we should not be expected to have to answer every minute of every day just because we're at home. So there's this perception that we have when we're in person. It's like, I can walk by your desk, Harrison, and be like, oh, I see you. Hey man, real quick, you got this? Right. I got a question about this thing, right? So one of the things I do is like, listen, if you are with your spouse or you have kids, and you're taking turns watching the kids, like tell your manager, tell your people, hey, listen, from 12:37 until 1:15 every day, I'm not going to respond to anything because my partner is on a call and I got to take care of the kids during this time, right? So we need to start setting boundaries with people at work and at home too on what is reasonable for us to respond to things. That's a really important part.
Another thing is, if you look at your phone, there's so many notifications that are competing for our time. And one of the things that I accidentally did, I went on vacation, turned off my Slack and email notifications. And I think it's been about 1.5 years and I've kept them turned off. Because guess what? I will check it when I check it. The thing is that when we think about Slack and when we think about our email, they're actually asynchronous forms of communication. So you don't necessarily need to respond to something right away.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to really keep in perspective.
I love it. And for those of you who are managing, I used to do this with my team, and there's some people on this call from that were on my team before. You're not going to get points for how fast you respond.
Yep.
Right. So like if I send you an email at 11 o'clock at night, don't respond to me. Like get back to it during business hours. If it's something that's important or urgent, I'll text you.
Is Gresha Meda? Tips for new designers looking for jobs. Applying online is a black hole. What are some unconventional yet effective ways to find jobs? I think this is a very unique time. It's more than just applying for the job, right? Most companies, if they're hiring, they're going to have, they're going to have their website, or they're going to have the job on the website. And I think one of the things to understand too, a recruiter is going to likely be the ones that are fielding those. I think what's going to be most important is just like focusing on your career growth. Remember, I'd mentioned this before, investing in yourself and really doing self-improvement. Seeing that through the work that you're doing on your portfolio, that's what's going to really shine through. Because again, like if we're looking at fewer jobs that are out there, guess what? There's going to be more people applying for those. So what are the things that you have invested in yourself that are going to help you stand out?
Love that. That's great advice.
How do you handle a boss who says you need to work an 8-hour day? I personally don't think anyone works fully 9 to 5.
A direct conversation with that manager. I would ask, are we sitting down and designing our alliances with those managers and letting them know our expectations? Because listen, especially now, because we're all at home, if you have kids and a family, and even if you don't, a full, like solid 8 hours is not something that's reasonable for anyone to be doing right now. At least not straight through, right? Maybe we spread our 8 hours across 12 hours throughout the whole day. I know some people that start work at 6 a.m. and work till 7, but they take breaks in between, right? So there's got to be time for a break. Again, this kind of goes back to the speed and efficiency and productivity versus the relationship, right? So I think sitting down and like, we need to start scheduling meetings with our managers, and the whole 30 minutes is about us.
Yeah.
Not talking about UX, not talking about building teams. We're talking about me and what's going on in my life and some of the things that I need and things I want to be aligned with. And, don't leave the last 5 minutes of your 30-minute meeting with your manager to set expectations for what you need. Like, you
Yeah.
deserve to have a full 30 minutes. So take it.
Yeah. And I would say if you guys are not having consistent one-on-ones, you need to make that happen now.
Yeah.
That is going to be your biggest point of, again, bringing your perspective to the table. And again, like, you can't negotiate without bringing anything to the table. So just understand that piece, and you need to make sure that you're the one driving those one-on-ones. Like, your manager is not responsible for scheduling the one-on-ones with you. You should be driving those. All right. So have those transparent conversations, and you driving those. Because again, that also shows your drive as well, and your the fact that you want to be more effective in the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Lenore just made a comment. How consistent is biweekly enough? I never let people answer a question with depends, but I'm going to have to use that now. It depends on what it is your team's working on. If your manager has the time, if you have the time, but I would try to get as many as you can. I love biweekly. Go for it. Yeah, if you get that, at least ask for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, for specifically in UX, we already have, I just want to, especially with this, we've actually had to, or I've evolved sort of how our team works. And I actually empower our team to say, hey, like, how can we connect more? So for one, in the design realm, we have our weekly critiques, which is where I can provide that feedback. And we have a weekly one-on-one. And then we also have group sort of settings. So there's a lot of opportunities where we can actually have those conversations. They may not necessarily manifest themselves specifically in a one-on-one. But just, I think to Brooke's point, since we have those touch points, having our one-on-ones weekly, that's an opportunity for you to just talk about yourself and kind of see where we can go from there.
Yeah.
So the next one from Elena: how can managers get feedback from their reports, especially when the team is small and therefore not anonymous, without putting them on the spot or making them feel like what they said might affect their performance?
Love it. Love it. So I am, I hate anonymous feedback. When I was at Facebook, when you were giving feedback to people, there's a little checkbox at the bottom. It was like, share this with the person or not. And I'm like, why would you not let someone know who said this? And if we build strong relationships with the people that we work with, the people in our personal lives, giving feedback, and if we do it in the right way, if we give the right content and we follow the right framework, it doesn't have to hurt every time. So yeah, I would say, like, as the manager needs to demonstrate. Again, this comes back to vulnerability again, right? As a manager, coming in, sitting down with your team, and doing what I was saying. Like, listen, I need to. If I'm better at what I'm doing, it's not only going to help me, but it's also going to help you. It's also going to help the team, and it's going to help the company. And this is what I want. So in order to do that, you got to let me know if something's going on, and, like, I'm not going to hold it against you. So can we have the type of relationship where we both can share and give each other feedback in a way that's useful for us? But I think just having that conversation, it sounds like a very simple thing, and it is, but we don't do that. So part of my mission is trying to get people to have better and healthier communication styles with their managers. It's funny, we forget the power that we have as employees. We think that the manager has all the. I got into this huge fight with one of my sergeants in the state police.
Yeah.
And he was not listening to anything I said. And he's like, Brooks, I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's done. Forget it. And I'm like, listen, you have to talk about it. Like, I'm telling you that I want to sit down and have a meeting with my manager. So, like, we're going to do it, and that's what happens. We have power as employees, and we have power as managers too. So making sure we're open, we're vulnerable, we're strong, and having these conversations is super important.
Awesome. So we probably have time for one more question. How do you remain professional while also being vulnerable? I feel like it's a slippery slope for me to overshare.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple sides of vulnerability. One side of vulnerability is kind of talking about your feelings and sharing sharing how you're feeling about situations, sharing how you're thinking about situations. Right. The other side of vulnerability is openness,
Mm.
and we oftentimes don't think of that, right? So how do we be vulnerable in the workplace? Like we are open to listening to other people's stories and how they live and how they operate, and we're also vulnerable and strong enough to share ourselves with the people that we work with, and that's what builds the stability and connection, better communication with the people that we're working with. So yeah, I would focus on that. So yeah, so I'm not saying like, listen, you got to start planning happy hours and inviting the whole company to your house every weekend, right? But we can take some time and out of our meeting space in our day to kind of talk about how we're feeling about work, how we're feeling about things going on in our personal lives. One of my buddies from my old team is on here, and like, we would start our meetings. I'm like, tell me one thing that happened this weekend that has nothing to do with work. Right? And I would start. I was the VP of the team. I would start and model that, right? So yeah, looking for some opportunities to share and be open. So two sides of vulnerability. One, here's the things I'm working on. Here's the things I'm afraid of. Here's the things I'm trying to be better at. Second side of the coin, openness. Here are some things about me. And that's what, at least to me, that's what vulnerability should be about.
Well, Brooks, thank you so much. We're going to wrap up right now. How would folks get in touch with you? Tell them more about your coaching service. Because I think this is a very enlightening conversation. I'm sure they're going to want to tune in more.
Yeah. This is great, man. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining. It was super awesome to have all of you here. You can hit me up on mergingpath.com is my website. The name of the company, Merging Path, is guiding you from the path of where you are to where you want to be. So here's where we are right now. It doesn't matter what happened to us in the past. Here's where we are. Let's take this and come together. So you can hit me up on the website. I'd love to connect with all of you on LinkedIn. And yeah, shoot me an email, brooks@mergingpath.com, and looking forward to working with all of you and all of your teams as well.